All right, time check is 24 minutes past the hour of 9, and you're still tuned to the People's 105.5 FM Abuja. My name is Maddox. Great to be back with you on the People's Breakfast. We are on the last lap this morning, and I told you we'll be having a conversation. It will have everything to do with education. Unfortunately, my guest had a logistic challenge coming in, but as a resilient gentleman he is, he ultimately made it to the studio. Let's welcome the president of the All Africa Students Union, AASU, His Excellency Osisiogu Osikenye. Osisiogu, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
On a lighter note, Osisiogu, my little knowledge of Igbo tells me is a war tree or a war stick.
Yeah, because you pronounce it as Ogu.
Okay.
But again, it is Ogu.
Ogu. Okay. All right, great. Okay.
Osisiogu.
All right, so I'm corrected now. It's Osisiogu.
Yes, it's like a scepter for blessings.
For blessings, yes. The Ogu stick. All right. Welcome so much, my good brother.
Thank you very much.
Now, 16th of this month was the World Education Day. And I know you held a press conference on it. Now, we covered it, we carried it in the news.
Yes.
The theme for this year is Education Fit for the 21st Century.
Exactly.
Now, tell me about that theme for this year's celebration and then bring it to Nigeria. Where do we stand with an education system, education formula, education curriculum that is fit for the here and now, the 21st century?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for having me. Education seeks to prepare people's minds for development. Education seeks to equip people for development. So education that will be fit for the 21st century is an education that meets the contemporary challenges of the 21st century. And that is also the quest for Africa's development and self-reliance. So asking for education that is fit for the 21st century is asking that our curriculum seem not to have solved Africa's problem over the decades. Our curriculum has probably solved the problem of the West, and that is why it is a Western curriculum. So our advocacy, therefore, is an education that will be fit for the 21st century, that will educate Africans and seek to solve our own problems. Problems of insurgency, problems of underdevelopment, unemployment, and of course reverse the trend of brain drain that we have today. I mentioned recently that education that will be fit for the 21st century is education that will refine oil here in Africa before exporting elsewhere, not the other way around. An education that will add value to cocoa before it is exported. An education that will refine the oil solid minerals in Congo and also the diamonds in South Africa and Botswana. An education that will add value to them before exporting. That's what will keep the jobs here, rather than for us to now begin to japa and still go there to refine the same thing that was taken from here. So an education that will keep value in Africa, of course, that will empower our people and ensure Africa's development rather than the other way around. Our curriculum seems to be serving the interest of the West more than it does for that of Africa.
What you're saying is almost echoing what former President Obasanjo just said about a political system, saying, look, we should look for a homegrown system, that the Western liberal democracy is not working for us.
Yes.
And then you look at the fact that all over the world, we have about 100 million out-of-school children.
In Africa?
In Africa. And Nigeria takes a huge bulk of that. Depending on who you're asking, it's something between 23 million to 30 million children that are out of school. How do you think the educational system has failed these children, seeing them out of school? And if you were in a position to redesign our system, or probably where the people who pilot our affairs fail, that we have this huge number of children, that's like half of the population of Nigeria out of school in Africa, and almost practically a third of Nigeria's population out of school.
So the out-of-school children menace is very, very prominent on the continent, and of course, I believe to a very large extent we can solve that problem with a homegrown curriculum that seeks to take cognizance of Africa's culture in giving us access to education. For instance, that I say that the Western education does not care about the nomadics who move from one place to the other. And of course, the nature of their culture that they have to move, and of course, aggravated by climate change, now has actually intensified the extent to which they move around from community to community. No education, no system captures such nomadic behavior, and means that their children are going to be adding to the statistics of out-of-school children on the continent. Then there's also no education that has taken cognizance of Africa's culture of folk tales that take place by moonlight.
Yeah.
And now, is that not education? So people that get such education don't get awarded a degree. If you go to Aba, you see a lot of artisans, and then you call them illiterate. How do you call someone who brings such value of the fine textile you have, fine shoes you have? How do you call that person an illiterate with the value he brings to the table? So we want an education system that takes care of our palm wine tappers who actually give us value. And of course, the farmers in the village and all of that. So anybody that brings value to the table should be considered to have been educated. So I'm not totally condemning the Western education because it has brought us this far. But now what talking about the 21st century means that it is high time we progressed into a homegrown education system so that the population of out-of-school children will not continue to hit the roof and continue in that pattern. If I'm asked, I will say that look, we have to do a curriculum that seek to solve our own problems here in Africa, that seek to trace where these people are in the hinterlands and give them education. Not education that sits in Abuja and expect everybody to come here in Abuja, but an education that will go to look for the children where they are, and of course give them education where they are. And of course, not every village, not every community in Africa today has a school. We have that, but I'm sure that the conversation around armed conflict occasion out of school children is actually a huge one, because over 28 million are out of school because of pockets of armed conflict across Africa. Yes, but again, what we have existing is that this system may not have captured the Africa adequately, and it's high time we started looking at a system that would take cognizance of our culture and ways of behavior in giving us education.
All right, well, we'll still come back to the education system in Africa and in Nigeria, but let's take a look at the All Africa Students Union. Let me confess, I'm not very familiar with the All Africa Students Union, and if as smart and knowledgeable as I think I am not very familiar with it. So it may not be wrong for me to assume, without presuming, that some other people may not know about the All Africa Students Union, what it's about. So talk to us about the All Africa Students Union. Give us the full lowdown of what it is about, and then tell us about your ascension to the presidency. Where did you get there? What has been happening? What have you been doing as the president of the All Africa Students Union?
Thank you very much. The All Africa Students Union was founded in July 1972 in Ghana at the Kwame Nkrumah University, and it seeks to bring African student leaders together. Of course, it takes cognizance of the fact that there are various national student unions like we have here in Nigeria that operate within Nigeria. So the much All Africa Students Union can do is to collaborate with national student unions where there is need. But of course, just like a chain is as strong as its weakest point, there are countries who have come that have these weak points right now that are breeding with. My predecessor, for instance, is from Sudan, Khartoum, and today that country needs help because of the armed conflict that has arisen. That was the union that was very strong before now. So over the years, the union has always created platform for peer review among student leaders, and also just like we're doing now. And as an advocacy organization, talk about what happens in Africa as education and students' welfare. We have over the years also influenced policy. In year 2001, UNESCO awarded this very organization a medal of commendation because of the advocacy it has carried over time. I'm the first Nigerian president in 52 years.
52 years?
Yeah, wow. Since the time of 1972, it was established. However, we've had Dr. Oludare Ogunlana, the former NANS president, the Secretary General from the 2000 to to 2011.
Okay.
He worked at the Secretariat in Ghana, and that is the extent to which. So the union may not be as popular as National Student Union, who do the job per se.
Yeah.
But of course, during my tenure, I have tried to engage student leaders. We have also visited countries that have issues. Even in Tigray region in Ethiopia has seen me 2 times in the last 1 year, because we have actually gone to the Tigray region to advocate for education and, of course, see that schools are reopened. My ascension to the office was in 2021, December.
2 years now. Almost 2 years now.
2 years plus.
Mhm.
And that has also seen me basically from Abuja, where I sit at my office at Lagos House Complex, CBD, coordinate what student union leaders do. And of course, when we need to intervene, we go and intervene in those countries.
All right, so like I mentioned earlier, you commemorated the African Students' Day 2024 on June 16.
Yes.
That was a Sunday, and there was a press briefing to that effect. Tell us about the African Students' Day. How did it start, and what are the aims? And we already know the theme for the year, but what are the general aims of the African Students' Day? Is this just another day? Yeah, okay, it's a day for African students, and then we all go back to our dinner or breakfast, depending on what time of day it is.
In 1982, the Congress of the All Africa Students Union that held in Addis Ababa declared June 16 African Students' Day. And that is actually to enable us commemorate some of the challenges students have faced, especially in terms of armed conflict, bloodletting, and all that. That day was chosen remembering the killing of Soweto students in Soweto in 1976.
That should be the Sharpeville Massacre.
Yes.
Sharpeville Massacre.
That's what we know as Soweto.
Soweto, okay.
In South Africa.
Great.
So students marched to protest the same thing we're talking about today, that they wish to be taught in the local language of Xhosa and Zulu.
Mm-hmm.
And that time it was, of course, you know the period apartheid regime of South Africa. We had they had students killed in cold bloods in their hundreds, and that was very popular at then. So we chose that day as Africa Student Day. However, November 17th is the International Student Day, but this one is for us in Africa to talk about issues in Africa. That is why, going away from Soweto in 1976, South Africa has actually evolved a better education system, very best in Africa today. And of course, you cannot divorce the struggle of that time with the success of today. Okay. The Southern Africa region has a better access, although we have issues of affordability in Southern Africa region of South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and all that. But we have better access to quality education there today. But again, other parts of Africa have some similar challenges. So taking a lead from the advocacy that took place in South Africa in those 1970s, we are now interested in having access to education. That same day, last year, 2023, we commemorated the same in Addis Ababa. We called it Back to Addis. And then
that was where it all started.
Yeah, that was started. So we gathered in Addis Ababa last year under my leadership to commemorate it. Unfortunately, that same day we got news that 40-something students of Kasese School and the border between Uganda and DRC were attacked by ADF terrorists. And of course, that also reminds us of the challenges of campus insecurity, even in East Africa. Today, Somalia is also a challenge. South Sudan is what it is today. South Sudan is yet to come on its feet almost 50 years after independence. It has the highest literacy level in the world today. Wow. We are getting to 10 years when in April 2014, when students of Garissa State University were murdered in cold blood by Al-Shabaab terrorists on campus.
In Sudan?
In Kenya. In Kenya. Garissa is in Kenya.
Okay, Al-Shabaab. Okay, yes, Kenya.
Yes, in Kenya.
Yes, Kenya.
So our campuses are becoming soft targets for terrorists. So we call for walking the talk. There's already a declaration of the African Union for safe schools. And of course, the Nigerian Defense here already have the safe school department initiative. We also have International Day for Protection of Education from Attack by the United Nations on the 19th of September. So all of these declarations are there on paper. So we want to see how they can walk the talk. Can we get the militia in Tigray region of Ethiopia not to occupy campuses whenever there is crisis, or whenever there is conflict? Can we have the same to be forced in Sudan? And of course, so that we don't have our education facilities being destroyed by soldiers taking over the facilities and destroying them, and it's difficult to go back to school even after the conflict. So somehow, we are looking at campuses becoming very separate, that militia or soldiers, whoever they are, will keep off our campuses anytime there is any such crisis. I've dwelt so much on East Africa because I'm also West African. We cannot divorce the fact of the that we have.
Yes, I was almost going to say, from the way you sound, it looks like it's all rice and chicken in Nigerian schools.
I am yes, I am trying to draw an exhaust.
Great.
That it is not a Nigerian.
It's not just a strictly Nigerian thing.
Yes, for us to have almost 30 million out of school only by armed conflict. And only in Tigray region in Ethiopia. Tigray region is just like a region in Ethiopia. We have over 2 million students out of school in that region. And that is to tell you what happens in Amhara or the Oromia region and other places where there could be crisis. So here in Nigeria, I'm sure we are already conversant with the challenge of the past 15 years of direct attack on education in northeastern Nigeria. And that has inflated the education. But again, the interesting thing is that because of the efforts to reintegrate students and rebuild the state education infrastructure, Northwest is also challenged because the highest out of school children today is Kebbi State in Nigeria.
So Kebbi is not your typical state that has insurgency or insecurity.
Yeah, so
that is beyond insecurity.
No, insecurity is contributing just about 30% of these issues. There are certain economic issues. There are issues of there are people who believe that their children should not go to school, especially the girl child.
Okay.
And so those issues need
social-cultural issues.
So we need to be taken from that perspective. We need to attack those issues from social-cultural perspective about the millennium. There are also economic factors where the child cannot go to school because the parents cannot afford it, and there's also factors of no school in the village.
Yeah.
There are villages that have no school.
Students have to walk for miles to get to the nearest school.
Exactly, and of course, it's not a pleasant experience. And the school is supposed to, at that tender age of children, they're supposed to have education is supposed to be very attractive for them. I've seen school feeding program and all of that, but I don't know the extent.
I was going to ask you about the school feeding program because beyond helping in general nutrition, one of the stimulants for school registration for parents is knowing that their kid will get at least one meal in school in a day, at least on a school day. It encourages them to kill two birds with one stone, as it were. And I'm trying to ask you, we've heard a lot of brouhaha about the school feeding program in Nigeria. We're talking about feeding about 10 million children in school. But the success and efficacy of that program is really a questionable one. And I would love to know your take on the entire school feeding program in Nigeria. We have to have these conversations because education, students' unionism is not really about universities alone. It's not just about universities for people like you. It's about the entire hog of education from crèche to if there's anything beyond PhD. So the school feeding program of the federal government, what's your honest assessment of it?
Yes, honestly, I think just like every other program has had its challenges. But of course, I would advocate that we will continue to make it better and better. We'll continue to make it, civil society, agencies of government should also help in doing the whistleblower on the school feeding program. Because on paper it looks nice, but in implementation, I've not seen, I don't see how the whole 704 local governments in Nigeria can come up with the same level of of success in terms of implementation. So I think all hands have to be on deck. We cannot throw away the baby with the bathwater. Every program has its challenges, and of course, the school feeding program may not be different as it is now. But again, our hands must be on deck to see that. But again, I think government should also look at enhancing access. Just 10 million children is a paltry sum. What it means is that government have abdicated its responsibility of educating children to private sector, with little or no regulations. We see a lot of private sector all over the place. That means that you depend on private sector to give you quality education. Yes, it is the way to go, but again, I think those free access to free education is actually very, very little in terms of percentage of access. So school feeding program and other forms of incentives should be encouraged to make sure that as many children as possible go to school. Another factor I've also considered is juvenile marriage that has also kept the girl child out of school. We believe that when we are hoping that the time will come when no girl child gets pregnant on campus, we also hope that even when they are pregnant, there should be a way of keeping them on campus in school.
Yeah, rather than that becoming an abridgment of the educational career.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had a conversation with various stakeholders last week with the First Lady of Bayelsa State, where she has also advocated and told us that the girl child must be made to go to school irrespective, even if it requires having maternity units in schools. Of course, when other people get pregnant, even teenagers who are not in school get pregnant, they still go to their workplace. So, however, I think that that should not be the end of education career for any young girl that sees herself in that situation. We must help them to be sure that all minds in Africa must be educated.
All right, all minds in Africa must be educated. All right, we're having a conversation with the president of the All Africa Students Union. He's Osisiogu Osikenye. He's been talking to us here in the studio, generally about education in Nigeria, and also as a follow-up to the commemoration of the Africa Students Day 2024 with the motto of education fit for the 21st century. We've been talking about so many issues, right up to the challenges of access to education in not just Nigeria, but across Africa. We've also zoomed in on local issues here in Nigeria. We'll still do more of that. We're terminating this conversation by 10 a.m. But I would like to have your input in the conversation. If you're able to call in, you can give us your take on the conversation we're having and ask a question, make a comment, bear your mind on issues concerning education in Africa. And of course, Nigeria. Nigeria should ordinarily be the epicenter of Africa in everything. And it's a good thing that for an organization that's 52 years old, we now have a Nigerian running it for the first time. And he's here with us in the studio. The studio number for you to call is 0911-222-1055. That's 0911-222-1055. Once again, 0911-222-1055. Would love to hear what you have to say about it. Now, education is not complete without money. You have to make expenditure to bring education. And you rightly pointed out that the federal government cannot outsource education to the private sector. Any meaningful and sensible government has to provide very good public education system all the way from top to bottom. Now, the United Nations posits that desirable allocation for education should, out of a total budget, should be something between 15 to 26% or 30% of the allocation. And it's been said that over the years, Nigeria has been doing about 5.9%. And recently, it was reported that the current federal government is trying to push up allocation to education to about 25%. The Enugu state government has budgeted about 33% for education. in the states. We just do hope that the cash backing is also there. It's not just about the proposal.
Yeah.
And reports are that there are the indicators are that the impact is being felt. Looking at the funding of education in Nigeria, at least within the period that you've been president of the ASU, how do you rate allocation, the budgetary allocations to education in the country, at least from a federal perspective?
It doesn't reflect the reality of the exigency of education for this country. For a country that has almost 20 million children out of school, for a country that has the rest of the children who are going to school risking getting substandard education, especially at basic level, for a country that is bedeviled with insecurity, that needs to empower its people, for a country that has a huge GDP of almost 500 billion, I think education has not been prioritized enough by past governments and even the present one. So I think this is a big problem. I think for the fact it is only Sokoto State that I've heard in the time of the former governor that have budgeted above 20% for education. We have a challenge in this country, and then we hear the Northeast, I don't know, apart from the bloodletting destruction of education infrastructure, and of course, forcing children out of school. The government has also fallen for the trap. During the time of Jonathan regime, it budgeted close to 30% or more than that for defense.
Okay.
Because, and that was occasioned by the rising spate of insecurity.
Yes, yeah.
Now, in the case where there is no insecurity, the budget, defense may not even get up to 20% or even 50%. Where is the balance 10-15% coming from? Education, health is suffering. So that is where Boko Haram succeeds, because they get you to inadvertently deny your people access to
education.
So it requires a lot of political will. It requires prioritization to see that education. I don't think the Enugu state government has as wide fiscal space as other governments who have not invested so much in education. I've also seen him enhance infrastructure, education infrastructure, creating better enabling environment. Also, of course, when he enacted the law of free and compulsory education, backing it up with enforcement, you see that the situation of education will go up. And I think every other governor should borrow a leaf from Enugu state governor in making sure that he also walks the talk. We also continue to monitor, like you said, that this is not just on paper. That finally we see excellent education infrastructure in Enugu state, just like we had in Rivers State during the time of the former governor Amechi. We saw him change all the, rebuild all the schools as it were. So we don't want private schools. Look what happens in JAM. We argue who is the highest score. My ears itch to hear a public school. And I don't hear. I hear Deeper Life, I hear Deeper College, and all of that. So even if it means to go back to the PPP arrangement, to partner with these faith-based organizations who have the best of schools.
Which has been done in some states. It's part of what Peter is credited for in Anambra State. Returning some of the schools to the original owners, mostly missionary, and also supporting them.
Exactly. The total return may not actually be. The government must not abdicate that entirely. We should not outsource education entirely, because it's a critical aspect of our being. But again, if these people have what it takes, let us partner with them. I've also called on private sector to also be part of education, including their CSR. The CSR for education has to be prioritized by all of these private sector. We need to pass a further legislation around CSR to ensure that, hey, you must invest up to 30% of your CSR in education-related ventures. And that will help us up what education gets at the end of the day. Now, I like what is happening with TED Fund, because a percentage of petroleum profit is invested in research, and of course allowing lecturers to higher education staff to have access to funds to do their research. So if more of that is done, it is not just directly from the federal government. All hands now must be on deck to ensure that access to education is enhanced. Assuming CAF total says that no, I'm not investing so much in CAF, and then invest in making sure that I'll have more classrooms in Africa. We know what it means.
Massive,
So
yes.
private sector has also has a critical role to play when government is also coming up.
All right. Part of the things you listed as hindrances to access to education is money. Poverty has pervaded many homes, so making it difficult to afford schools. And many of the private schools actually approach education, provision of education, as purely business,
Yes.
not necessarily as providing a necessity. So it's all business for them. If you can't pay, stay away. Now, the federal government has come up with the NELF, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, providing what we all now call the Student Loan Fund, which is one of the key cardinal promises President Tinubu made, and he's doing his best to fulfill at the moment. I do not believe that you're not tracking and monitoring how that is going. First of all, how do you assess the entire setup? And do you think it's a good initiative? Is it being done properly? And from your monitoring and assessment, do you think the government is getting the implementation right?
First of all, we have also commended the federal government of Nigeria under the Renewed Hope agenda for walking the talk in terms of the promise for education loan. You know, the truth is that somehow people must go to school, and if that seeks to solve the problem of inaccess to education, and of course granting someone access to go to school, I think I have seen it work in so many places. Most of the education in Southern Africa region, is through student loan. Okay. We have also had very close to us here in Kenya, the Higher Education Loans Board has also done tremendously well in enhancing access to education. Here in West Africa, yes, we may not have too many examples apart from maybe Ghana and all of that. It is a step in the right direction the president has taken. There is nothing better than need for now, unless if in future we see another. And we feel that a program that I just started may not be perfect. I know in the past such program has come and it didn't see the light of the day because it didn't stay. But there is nothing better than it for now. Okay. So I think to the extent to which it solves a problem of lack of funding for education, the extent to which it contributes to better education system and of quality thereof, we must support it until it gets better and better than it is today.
All right. Okay. We really have so much to talk about as far as education in Africa. Even in Nigeria alone, we could do like 10 of these programs. But unfortunately, you were delayed getting here, so we didn't have so much time. But well, I always don't fail to grab the any opportunity to talk about issues that will help the general public. There's a cholera outbreak, and it's been reported that it can and it would actually affect schools. Many schools in Lagos may not open when they are supposed to. They've not opened, and parents are even saying, if you like open school, we're not sending our children. What advocacy can you make now in 1 minute so that government, everybody can know and do the right thing so that we can fight cholera, push it out, and our children can go to school? So just give us in 1 minute. This is an advocacy I want you to do.
Yes, very sad we have that situation, and health comes first. So I think the government should quickly arrest the situation, and of course adjust the date. Just last month in Kenya, they had a flooding, and instead of school resuming on a particular Monday, they postponed it to about 2 weeks away from the time it was supposed to resume.
And handle the issues.
Handle the issues, then children going to school. So they have to be alive. Right. So cholera now is an attack on education. Yeah. So we have to keep our students alive at all levels. So I think the government can vary the time. Maybe it can also eat 2 weeks into the time of a long break in September, and of course give a little latitude for parents to regain confidence to send their children to school.
All right, thank you so much. That was apt and to the point. We've been talking with Osisiogu Osikenye. He's the president of the All Africa Students Union. He's been talking to us about issues concerning education in Africa, and of course, in commemoration of the Africa Students Day on June 16th. That was a Sunday, but of course, the media rounds have continued. Son, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.